love your absolute disdain for these people. You're just like, yeah, okay.
They have nothing to offer society except their tears, and I accept them gladly and thankfully.
Welcome to Electric Enthusiasm, the podcast where we celebrate unironic enthusiasm. I've only just realized what today's podcast is about, despite the fact that I asked for this episode and then you had it in the calendar as MMFR. I just couldn't. My brain didn't. Anyway, I'm Katie Cobalt.
And now your brain does.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And I'm Alexander Kirov, and in this episode, I will try not to be mediocre.
So, Alex, can you tell us how this works?
You bet I can, Katie. In each episode of the podcast, one of us presents a topic that they love, but that the other host knows little to nothing about it, and then tries their hardest to spread the enthusiasm to the other host and to you, the listener. Sometimes we have guests on who are super excited about something that we know nearly nothing about.
And we then have the moment of meta, where we nerd out about enthusiasm itself and talk about why it matters and how you can live a more enthusiastic life.
Because the world needs more enthusiasm, and you should share your enthusiasm with us on our website, electricenthusiasm.com, or our Instagram, @electricenthusiasm. Tell us what you're excited about these days. You could even plain old send us an email at hello@electricenthusiasm.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Alex, what is today's topic?
Today we're talking about one of my all-time favorite movies. I love this movie so much. We're talking about Mad Max Fury Road.
I can verify this must be one of your favorite movies of all time because you've spoken about it at least 17,000 times with me. Maybe not on air, but like in our lives when we chat.
It keeps coming up in my conversations, and there are some good reasons why I'm so enthusiastic about it, and we're going to talk about those. Yes.
So we like to start with the facts first here on the podcast. So, Alex, what exactly should a person know about Mad Max Fury Road?
It is a 2015 post-apocalyptic action movie directed by George Miller. It was nominated for 10 Oscars, which is very unusual for an action movie. Yeah, and won 6 of them.
Damn.
The title role of Mad Max Rockatansky is played by Tom Hardy, so crucially not Mel Gibson, who played Mad Max in the 3 previous Mad Max movies. We're going to come back to why that is a big deal. But the real protagonist, the real main character of Mad Max Fury Road is Imperator Furiosa, who's played by Charlize. Okay, pop quiz. Katie, is it Charlize Theron or Charlize Theron?
I thought it was Theron.
I thought so too. Apparently, it's neither.
How did you pronounce your name? What?
It's a long story, but
Okay.
I go.
I want to hear it now.
I go by Charlize Theron, but it's the real pronunciation of my last name is Thron, which is really hard for people to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Where is her name from? Is French?
South Africa.
South African.
Apparently, Theron is the preferred mispronunciation of her name.
Mm-hmm.
So, Katie, you've seen Mad Max Fury Road. What do you know about it? Where are you at? Do you even like it? Are you enthusiastic about it at all?
I'm like very neutral about it.
Uh-huh.
I think I watched a video essay on YouTube about why Mad Max Fury Road is incredible. And I was just like, oh, that seems cool. And then when I had the opportunity to watch, I think on a plane or something, I watched it and I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And then haven't thought about it again since.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to try to up your enthusiasm about it because there are so many things that make this movie awesome.
So why are we talking about Mad Max Fury Road right now?
First of all, I love it. I love it so much. I've seen it at least 20 times, including 4 or 5 times in the movie theater. And also, you asked for it because you felt like we should complete the trilogy, right?
Yes.
A couple of episodes ago, we did Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And in the last episode, we talked about RRR, Rise, Roar, and Revolt.
We got to get that maximalist trilogy.
And what those 3 movies have in common, which we also talked about, is just this batshit level of insanity and energy. And they're all unique in their own way. And they all have this incredible drive and this incredible force that propels them forward and draws you in as a viewer. Mad Max Fury Road came first, I believe, of those 3, right?
RRR came out this year.
Okay.
Both RRR and Everything Everywhere All at Once are new films. Mad Max Fury Road
yeah.
is the first of our maximalist trilogy.
Yes. The Daily Telegraph reviewer called it a Krakatoan eruption of craziness, and then went on to say this.
Imagine if Cirque du Soleil reenacted a Hieronymus Bosch painting and someone set the theater on fire. This is more or less what Miller came up with.
Yeah. I remember seeing it in cinemas for the first time. There's an opening sequence where Max tries to escape from the bad guy, Immortan Joe's men, and then gets captured, gets taken to their fortress, gets tattooed on the back with his blood type, then tries to escape and is recaptured. It's about 5 minutes. And after those 5 minutes, the titles comes off, and Patricia and I just looked at each other in the cinema and went, what the fuck is this? This is amazing. There's this energy and this drive to the movie. I am obviously not the only one who loved this movie. Quentin Tarantino talks about his favorite movie of 2015.
What do you think is the best movie you've seen in 2015?
It'd have to be the Mad Max movie, Fury Road. I got a print of Mad Max on 35 millimeter, and I watched it in my house, and I had it all weekend, and I ended up watching it 3 different times. And I resisted seeing it for a while, because I was like, Mad Max? Without Mel Gibson? Forget that, all right? You know, in a world where Mel Gibson exists, how can you cast Tom Hardy? So I even wanted to get all defiant about it, and hashtag not my Max. All right. Then I saw the movie, and okay, it's terrific, and he's pretty good in it. I have to admit, he's pretty good.
Whoa. I don't know the original series, and I don't particularly like Mel Gibson. I'm really surprised that there's such a strong sentiments of hashtag not my Max.
Yeah, there were 2 main internet campaigns against Mad Max Fury Road. One of them was because of Mel Gibson not being in it, and the other one was because technically Mad Max is not even the main character, and it's a very feminist movie. We're going to get back to that, and some of the internet warriors hated that, and fuck them. That only makes the movie more awesome, in my opinion. But I love the idea that Quentin Tarantino got a print, wasn't really going to watch it, and then he's like watches it 3 times in a few days because it's just that amazing. Yeah, probably the best thing anybody said about Mad Max Fury Road was Matt Stone, the guy from South Park.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he said, I'm going to the cinema to watch Mad Max Fury Road for the 3rd time. I'm wearing a suit.
The most irreverent man in Hollywood is like, no, for this, I must come prepared.
Yes, exactly. So I want to talk about some of the things that make this movie amazing. It's an incredibly unlikely success for many, many reasons. I mean, first of all, the first 3 Mad Max movies are bad.
I've never seen them. I have no knowledge of them whatsoever.
And you shouldn't. I know a lot of people have strong feelings about the second one. And if somebody out there loves Mad Max, The Road Warrior, Mad Max 2, that's fine. I've seen it. It's a very, very dated, very trashy piece of 80s action.
Wow.
But honestly, it's just not very good. The first one is George Miller's first movie made on a shoestring budget with Mel Gibson as the main character. He was a complete unknown back then. And the third one is super campy, super trashy. Co-stars Tina Turner, of all people.
Wow.
But has very few redeeming qualities otherwise. Honestly, the fact that the 4th one is so good when the first 3 are actually kind of bad, that's amazing. Another reason why it's such an unlikely hit is that when George Miller made it, he's a 70-year-old grandpa who had not directed an action movie since Mad Max 3 30 years ago.
Whoa, that's crazy. What brought him back?
He got the idea for a script in the 1990s. I was trying to make it already then. It's supposed to start shooting in 2003. Then 9/11 happens, and the cost of making the movie just skyrocket. So it gets canceled. Then he's supposed to shoot it in, I think in 2009 or 10 in Australia, in this desert where it never rains, ever. And then 2 weeks before the shooting starts, it starts raining. And what was a desert is now a beautiful meadow full of colorful flowers. Which is very pretty, but not really the setting you want for a Mad Max movie. Yeah. So they're like, okay, this is, it's going to dry out. It's going to go back to being a desert. Let's wait. They wait 1.5 years. It's still not a desert. It's still a beautiful meadow. Yeah. Finally, they relocate shooting to Namibia, to the desert there, where they finally end up shooting it in 2014, and it premieres in 2015. George Miller's 3 previous movies were Happy Feet,
Wait, the penguins.
The Penguins,
The dancing penguin movie.
yes, Happy Feet 2, and Babe, Pig in the City.
So we went from that to friggin' Mad Max.
How insane is that, right?
That's crazy cakes. I love it. I love it.
Just how unlikely is that? When they start shooting the movie, the Namibian desert is not a welcoming environment. They have so many problems with dust and wind. That creates a really difficult environment. The 2 co-stars, Charlize Theron and Hardy, hate each other.
Oh,
They
really?
they just do not get along. From what I've read, it's that Tom Hardy's like really method and stays in character, and Charlize Theron is a little more like loose. Tom Hardy did not get along with the director. He was like, I have no idea what this guy wants me to do. I don't trust him. I don't believe in his vision. I just don't get it. So shooting was a living hell.
Was this film cursed by any chance? Did someone piss off a witch or something?
That's the thing, right? Because so many things went wrong. But out of all of that comes what is arguably a masterpiece.
It is very good. I have a personal, I do not think method acting is very good. I think it creates stress for everybody, and it's often used as a vehicle to promote the movie after the fact. Like, it always ends up on the late night talk shows like Jimmy Fallon be like, so I heard you were doing method acting. And it's a vehicle to try and sell this narrative that this actor worked harder than everyone else and is just better because they never broke character. Emma Thompson talks about why theater acting is so useful. Because the second you step off the stage, you're surrounded by normal fucking people and you need to turn off. You need to just be a person again. And there's value in it being able to, as an actor, be the character and then turn off and then turn back on again. And that's like a skill that you can develop. And that's what she thinks theater is really useful for. A lot of actors who don't have a theater background just stay in character the whole time. And for a movie like Mad Max, where it's really fucking intense, or like The Joker from Suicide Squad, maybe we don't do that for the whole day. Maybe we don't do that for 6 months.
Yeah, right?
Just for the sake of everybody's enjoyment of the project, don't be a dick. Like, come
Exactly.
on. Sorry. By the way, Katie has problems with method acting.
Have you seen Marathon Man?
No, not yet.
Okay, a 70s movie with Dustin Hoffman and Sir Laurence Olivier. There's a scene where Dustin Hoffman, the main character, has been pursued by the bad guys, and he's really harried and stressed, so he stayed up all night, stayed awake to have that edge, right? The method acting. And Sir Laurence Olivier looks at him and says, "Have you tried acting?"
Exactly. Exactly. Like, you don't have to be an asshole to play an asshole. You could just play an asshole. Sorry.
Why am I so excited about this movie? Why is it so good? I want to talk about some things that are in it, but I also want to talk about 4 things that are not in it that make it amazing. First thing is Mel Gibson.
The absence of Mel Gibson is always a plus.
Yeah, he ruined his own career. Let him rest. It's fine.
We're good.
Second, no dumb, stupid, idiotic, forced romantic subplots at all.
Yes, I appreciate that. I hate a forced romance. I hate that so much. It just, why?
Why? Yeah. And there must have been massive studio pressure to make, Mad Max and Furiosa end up together at the end. Why not have them kiss in the final scene? What this movie has instead is friendship and mutual respect.
Which is still fucking awesome.
Third thing that is not in this movie is that there is no unnecessary dialogue.
That's very little dialogue, if I remember correctly.
Furiosa has 80 lines of dialogue, and Max has 53.
I feel like they really took the concept of show, don't tell with this movie. They were like, we're not going to tell you shit. Just watch it.
Yes. Part of that is the editing. I put a quote in the script from the editor. We're going to return to her because she's amazing.
What's her name?
Margaret Sixel.
We were obsessed with the casual relationship between shots. Every shot had to earn its place. No fat, no repetition. Yes, if I remember correctly, it's like very slick editing, lots of sharp cuts that were telling a narrative in the most efficient way possible.
Exactly. One example of this is the boot. At the beginning of the movie, Max is chained to this car and he has to fight his way free. He kicks Slit, one of the war boys, off the moving car, and as Slit is falling off, he pulls one of Max's boots off. Now Max only has one boot, okay? Later, the car crashes. Nux is driving it. Max needs a boot, so he steals Nux's boot, okay? Now, Nux only has one boot. Later again, they're escaping from Immortan Joe's war party. The bullet farmer is pursuing them, and Max goes to fight them. And he comes back with a lot of weapons and a steering wheel that they've been missing and an extra boot for Nux. None of this is mentioned with a word.
I like that. Although, I would rather he gave Nux his boot back and then took the spare. But that's just, come on, man. Give the guy his boot back. You took his boot.
Maybe he did that. We don't know. He gives Nux a boot. Yeah. And none of that is mentioned with a word. There's no, oh man, thanks for the boot. My feet were getting cold.
Yeah.
None of that is acknowledged. It just happens in the background. And I think that's amazing. And Nux's look when he gets that boot, he's like, oh, cool. But doesn't say anything. That's one of the things this movie does so well. There's no unnecessary dialogue. There's no unnecessary anything. Everything has its place. And the final thing that's not in this movie is that it does not treat the audience like idiots. So many action movies feel like they have to explain everything to you 3 times.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we did. I'm not an idiot. The first time is fine. The other 2 times just annoy me. But try reading this quote from the Telegraph review that also called it a Krakatoan eruption of craziness.
Krakatoan is such a good word.
Yes.
And what compounds the fun is Fury Road's wholesale rejection of the generally accepted blockbuster code of conduct, which dictates that expensive films have to be marketable to teenagers, but still watchable by 8-year-olds in order to maximize box office returns. Whether or not Miller was aware of these unspoken conventions, he plowed a blazing petrol tanker right through the middle of them. Fucking yes.
So there's a lot of in this movie going on that is not explained. Like whenever one of the war boys is about to sacrifice himself for Immortan Joe, there's this silver spray. What is that? I mean, it looks badass, but what is it? It's never explained because we don't need an explanation. It's just there and it's awesome. Is it religious? Maybe. Do they get high on it? Maybe. Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's awesome and it's there. Not a lot of movies do that. Mad Max Fury Road does it and does it incredibly well, where it just lets you figure stuff out for yourself.
I also feel like whenever you're telling a story, regardless of what medium the story comes out of, there's sometimes a feeling of insecurity in which like, no, I have reasons for all these things. Like there are reasons why all of this happens in this universe. There's almost like that eagerness to like, but I have answers. Directors are more put under pressure to like deliver those answers because people on the internet are going to pick it apart and ask so many pointless questions about all the little details in the film. So you better fucking have answers for all these things. I think it's really admirable when a director is like, I have answers, but you don't like need them. Like
Exactly.
there is a reason behind this. I know it is. I know my universe. You're just watching the outside a bit of it. Calm down. You're fine.
Exactly. And this movie takes that to 11, just like it takes everything else to 11. They wrote backstories for each and every single person, for each and every single car, for the main props. Every prop you see has a backstory that they wrote down, but they're not telling us because we don't need to know. Read the quote I just put in the script.
The approach to the film was to be able to explain everything. Not only all the characters, but every object and how it all found its way into this world and how it survived. Yeah, so they knew what was going on. It's like Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion. Like, you have the Silmarillion, you don't have to publish it.
Exactly. Of course they did it anyway, and I tried to read it and it's so fucking boring.
It's so long. It's so difficult.
Yeah. So those are some of the things that are not in the movie that make it amazing. What is in the movie? Here are 5 things that I just love about it. The sheer just batshit levels of energy. You made me describe a scene from RRR with 2 people casually jumping off each side of a bridge, holding each end of a rope to save a boy beneath it.
Through fire. Through an explosion.
Fire and water and swinging. It was amazing. I'm going to make you describe just 25 seconds from this clip what's going on here.
I feel like I'm on a test. I have to study. Okay. You have a sweeping shot of a desert. The camera rolls past an insane monster demon truck driven by a boy dressed as a skull. As the camera sweeps around, you see the army behind them, including what I'm going to call the rock truck. A truck with giant fucking drums, with drummers slamming on them at the back, and a guy rocking out an electric guitar solo with flames coming out of the guitar. In the distance, you see vehicle upon vehicle, all of them tricked out in ways that, like, I can barely describe because I don't know car words, but it's like 3 cars stacked on top of each other. They look like fancy, like Corvette style cars, but with massive bumpers and huge exhaust and flags and flames. And it's the most. Every car thing that exists in this world that looks cool, that'll make a 10-year-old boy be like, oh, what? Is on every single vehicle.
Yes, exactly.
That is my description of what I just watched.
By the way, I think the rock truck is a great name, but actually, it's called the Duff Wagon.
Duff wagon.
The Duff Wagon. Apparently, Duff is Australian slang for like techno music. Yeah.
Australian slang is a whole other language, to be fair, May.
Do you have a favorite Australian slang word?
Bottle-o. Gotta go down to the bottle-o.
The what?
The bottle-o. It's like the wine shop or like the
Got it.
alcohol shop.
Got it.
The bottle-o. Or
Got
avro. Avro?
Avro.
Arvo.
Yeah.
Arvo.
What's that?
Means afternoon.
Ah, okay. Got it.
Sunday avro.
I like bonzer.
What's sponsor?
When things are great. Everything is bonzer.
Ah, wicked. My Australian accent's real shit. It's real fun.
Yeah. So everything in this movie is heightened. Every single dial is cranked not to 11, but like to 314. The pace of the movie, it's the music, it's the cars. Every single one of which they built, by the way. None of that is CGI. They built all of those cars. They all drive for real.
The ability to make those drive is the most impressive thing to me.
Yes.
Because like you could build it's sculpture. You could build sculpture like that, but like they look deeply unbalanced.
There's a whole documentary on YouTube just about the cars. I'm going to link to that as well. It's fantastic.
That sounds super cool.
It's the action, it's the stunts. Everything is just heightened and has this crazy level of energy to it. That's why you have the Duff Wagon with 4 drummers on the back and a guitarist in the front with an electric guitar that's also a flamethrower, which, by the way, it was a flamethrower in real life. That those flames are not CGI. The whammy bar will actually set off the flamethrower. Yeah.
I bet everyone working on this film was high-key stressed.
Yes.
Because, like, imagine, like, you're a guitarist doing your job, and they're like, so we've strapped a flamethrower to the back of this guitar, and we've triggered it with the whammy bar. So what we need you to do is we're going to hook you onto the Duff Wagon. You're going to be scoring through the desert. It's real dusty, pretty windy. We need you to look really intimidating and also shoot flames out of it during your solo. Cool? Cool. All right, let's go. Let's overtake, y'all. 5, 6, 7, 8, go.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything in this movie is just, it's batshit crazy. It's amazing. And I think this works because everything is heightened. If just one element had not been, I think the whole movie would have fallen flat. But because everything is heightened, it all works. There are 2 things that keep this movie grounded, that keep it from just orbiting right into space. One thing is the practical effects. So there's a ton of CGI in this movie, but all of it is based on practical effects. So if you see a car rolling, that car rolled in real life, and that's why it looks real. Then they may have added stuff later in post-production. They may have changed the colors. They definitely changed the colors.
Or if they have to make the car roll, often they have something under the ground to pop the car up, and then they just rub that out later.
They can remove that kind of thing. But everything is based on practical effects. My favorite example is the pole cats, which are these trucks with a 6-meter-long pole on top and a guy on top of the pole that swings back and forth.
The Cirque du Soleil moment.
Exactly. George Miller talks about this. He saw street performers doing this act, and he's like, can we put that in the movie?
Can we put that on a car?
Yeah, so they tried doing it stationary first, and then CGIing it onto a moving car. That did not work. That looked too fake. And they're like, there's no way we can do that for real, is there? And then they get some Cirque du Soleil artists, and they start trying it out, and they can do it, and it works. That's why it looks so amazing. It's real. It's based in our world. It never leaves our world, and what might technically be possible with the laws of nature that we currently have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they did it all practically, it doesn't trigger our weird physics thing. Because sometimes when you have CGI bodies, they get a bit gummy. Like if you think about the final fight scene in Black Panther, those human physics don't make sense anymore to us.
Not at all.
Because the way that they're moving is a little bit too rubbery. Versus when you have practical effects, it doesn't have that moment because like we can see it's a human body moving the way a human body should. Because despite the fact that, you know, none of us think we're experts, we all have that eye for what a human should look like. And the uncanny valley is very fucking real. And it also applies to bodies in movement. Like you can tell when it looks weird.
Yes. And you can tell when it looks good, and it looks phenomenal in Mad Max Fury Road. and the other thing that keeps this movie grounded, keeps it from just becoming too much, is the acting. Because in a movie that is let's say, not exactly subtle, the acting performances are actually they're really subtle. They're really nuanced. They're very, very good. There's a lot of stuff going on in the body language, in the face, in the eyes. And again, this is not a coincidence. They have very good actors in Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy. The five wives are all fairly new to acting, so they did extensive workshopping beforehand. In the featurette, you can see them in costume with a lot of the war boys and with Immortan Joe standing there, building up that tension, building up that dynamic, making them become what George Miller called a five-headed hydra. They brought in the author of the Vagina Monologues to talk about feminism to the wife.
That's so cool.
So that, again, keeps the movie real. Not realistic, but real and believable. I totally buy what's going on in the minds and the emotions of these people.
It's almost like because the world around them is, as you said, turned to 11, in order for them to feel like the way we would respond to that world is to have a very realistic performance. If they were also acting at 11, I think that's when it would become campy, or that was when we won't buy it anymore. We won't buy that universe because that's not how people would react in that situation. But because they're giving a very naturalistic and very realistic performance, then we buy this is a weird fucking world, but these are real fucking people.
Yes, exactly. Second thing is the world building. Like we said, everything here has a place. Everything here has a story. That's the costumes. By the way, movie won an Oscar for the costumes. It's the props, it's the cars, but it's also the language and the behavior. Just three of my favorite details. In the war rig, the big truck that Furiosa drives, did you notice the gas pedal?
Nope. I've seen this movie once,
Yeah,
dude.
okay,
Come on.
Okay. So the gas pedal has this feature. They can stomp it down, it'll stay stuck, and the car will just drive itself, right?
Oh.
And the gas pedal is not a gas pedal. It's actually a foot measuring device from a shoe store.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. And a lot of stuff is reused. Max's muzzle that he wears for the first 45 minutes of the movie is an old garden rake. Because again, post-apocalyptic society, they're reusing a lot of stuff. The final thing I want to mention is the war boys. When they pray, they make this sign. They're not folding their hands in prayer. They're sticking their fingers up, and they go V8, V8. This looks like a V8 engine, the 8 cylinders sticking up in a V. Again, this is never explained.
Also, they're making the shape of a V with 8 fingers.
Exactly. V8, V8, V8.
Cool. I should just say, for people who are only listening to the podcast and not watching the podcast, we took our splayed fans and interlocked our fingers with the fingers still straight to create the shape of an X with our hands, just in case you're listening to the podcast and have no idea what the fuck just happened.
Yes, exactly. This level of detail shows that this movie was made with a lot of love from the people in it. There's a quote again from Margaret Sixel, the editor of the movie. She's talking about the Oscar nominations.
I have to be honest, we were never expecting the Oscar nominations because of it being an action film. But everybody took this film so seriously. The production designer, the visual effects people, the sound people, music. You know, it was art for a lot of people. So in hindsight, now, I think it must be evident when people watch the film that everyone tried to push the envelope a little. So when I look back now, I think, yeah, we did try to make something unique and different, and we didn't copy anybody. It's really hard not to copy people when in the art world. I think it's really hard to be the reference and not just reference stuff. That is a really difficult thing to achieve. It sounds like Mad Max Fury Road really did that. It really did the damn thing.
It absolutely did. Third reason why I love this movie so much is the music. Try listening to 30 seconds of this.
It's huge.
Uh-huh.
That is the word I would use to describe what I just listened to. It's massive. The huge drums, the giant full orchestra. It has this really interesting dichotomy between this rock element with the guitar and the drums and the big, loud metal sounds. And then you have the strings and the orchestral elements coming in, building that tension and building that filmic language that we're used to hearing in film. And that kind of coming together to create, honestly, just a massive sound. Just huge. I wish I had more. Ginormous. It's just a big noise. It noise big.
Noise big.
Noise real big. Katie, no English. Noise huge. It good noise. It big noise.
Exactly. They turn the music to 11 as well. They also do something really cool, which is that they mix diegetic and non-diegetic music in a really interesting way.
For those of you who do not know the difference between diegetic and non-diegetic music, diegetic music or diegetic sounds are sounds that are happening within the universe of the film. Non-diegetic is added on afterwards. So a soundtrack or a score of the music will be non-diegetic, but someone playing radio in the film and you hear the radio, that's diegetic.
Here's an example of that.
What I just witnessed was a sweeping aerial shot over this convoy of cars. And as we get closer, you hear the music coming through. Assumably, the source of the music is one of those vehicles.
The Duff wagon is down there.
The Duff wagon's down there. Okay, cool. So as we go past the Duff wagon, it fades out again. But the quality of the sound is changing as well. I don't know physics. Something like the Doppler effect is
Very
happening,
good,
perhaps.
Katie.
I don't know. The quality of the music is changing. And as we get closer, it gets clearer. And as we get further away, it changes in a different way. It really gives you that sense of movement and that sense of this camera is moving as fast as this convoy is. And also, I've just paused it on Tom Hardy's face, and now I can see it is in fact a garden rake on his face.
How amazing is
that?
That
looks so uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because I bet you it's a practical fucking effect as well. That is definitely a thing on his face.
Yes.
And maybe that's why he was such a grumpy little shit on set. That does not look fun. No.
But it works so well because it's actually Max's motivation for the first 40 minutes of the movie is get that fucking thing off my fucking face.
Mm-hmm. I also think this is probably the episode of the podcast where we have sworn the most.
And let's take it to 11.
I feel like we're inspired by Mad Max. Something about this just makes us be like, fucking yes!
Exactly. Here's the detail that I picked up on that I haven't seen anybody else mention. This is a post-apocalyptic wasteland. They save pretty much everything. Even the tube that Nux is using to suck out Max's blood in the beginning of the movie, he saves that and finds a use for it later. But when he gets that mask off his face, he just tosses it away in disgust. It might be reusable. He doesn't care. Just let me get rid of that thing. The other example is, by the way, the chastity belts of the wives. They also leave those behind.
Detour. The greatest moment of the mixing of diegetic and non-diegetic music is the hero sequence from Shrek 2. And I will fight people on this. The moment where the fairy godmother is singing Holding Out for a Hero.
Yeah.
In the film,
Yeah.
And then you have Shrek's hero theme, where he's fought dragons to this stuff already. When that blends with Holding Out for a Hero, truly cinematic glory. Shrek 2, that sequence. It is the best example of diegetic and non-diegetic coming together.
I will fight with
Thank
you
you.
on that one. We are in complete agreement. That is an amazing and awesome moment. Yeah, two more reasons why this movie is amazing, why I love it so much. The editing. Margaret Sixel, who is the editor on the movie, is also George Miller's wife.
Oh, wow.
He was like, I don't want this to look like every other action movie, so we should get somebody to edit it who's never done an action movie before. You know what? I'll ask my wife. Here's what she said about it, which I thought was super sweet.
Your husband says he wanted you to edit Fury Road because he wanted it to look like no other action film. Answer. He's my biggest fan. He just likes everything I do. That is very sweet. That's very cute.
Isn't that?
I like that.
I thought that was just amazing. She won an Oscar for the editing. Here's a longer quote on her process.
The fight scene between Max and Furiosa, that was my first fight scene. It was such fun to cut. It was very well choreographed, so that made it a lot of fun. It's like a piece of ballet, really. Max grabs the gun, and he's pinned Furiosa to the ground, and then he fires the gun in the sand around her head. You know, right at the last minute where we do our color grading and you can manipulate the image, we actually put a shake on the shot. So as the gun goes off, it shuddered. And we did it right then and went, yeah, that's great. And we went through the film and thought, let's put shake everywhere. So we just made the film even crazier. It is a very good effect. Like adding that little bit of shake, it's almost like the cameraman themselves freaked out because of the gunshot, and it gives it a little bit more power to all of the moments in the film. But too much shake makes something impossible to watch. See, oh my God, I'm going to do it. See the final fight sequences of Game of Thrones. Haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, no, it's been too long since we shat on Game of Thrones. Yeah. I agree completely. And many action movies are nearly unwatchable. You have no idea of who is where, who's doing what's happening now. I just have no clue. In Mad Max Fury Road, it's very, very clear.
Also, the way the camera movement matches. So the first shot, you have the camera movements going forward through the thing. And then because we generally read from left to right, the next shot you have is a panning shot left to right as well, which still gives that feeling of moving forward, even though it's a different movement for the camera to make. Little known fact, I studied media communication at university, specializing in documentary filmmaking. So like editing is a huge part of filmmaking and a big thing that we had to study. Yeah, I appreciate good editing. And if I feel like jarring cuts that's not intentional, it hurts a little bit. And I can hear my film teacher in the back of my head getting mad at me. It's great. She's there forever.
Yes. And so this high octane action movie was edited by a 70-year-old grandma, who, by the way, was married to the director. I mean, how friggin' awesome is that, right?
What a fucking power couple.
Yeah, right?
Right? Like, what an absolutely epic power couple. They're like, oh, yeah, in our 70s, we're just going to bust out insane action cult classic with 10 Oscar nominations to his name. NBD, y'all.
Exactly. Alrighty, a final reason why I love this movie so much is that it is explicitly feminist. One of my favorite scenes is the night scene. The war rig is stuck in the mud and the bullet farmer is approaching. So Max grabs the sniper rifle. There are 3 bullets in it. He tries twice, misses twice. And Furiosa doesn't say anything. She's just standing behind him like... And he looks over his shoulder and he just hands over the sniper rifle. And then she makes the shot.
2 left.
Don't breathe.
This is no coincidence. The movie is feminist by design. It's not necessarily men against women. It's everybody against toxic masculinity. There is an excellent series of videos by Innuendo Studios where he analyzes Mad Max Fury Road from a feminist perspective. He says, whenever you have a female lead in an action movie, the male audience will need a reason to believe that this woman kicks ass. Why is this woman
Yep.
defeating the bad guy? Why is she strong enough, capable enough, fast enough, good enough to defeat this male, almost always a male villain, right? And he identifies 6 archetypes of women who are allowed to kick ass in an action movie. There's the mama bear. If a woman does it to save her kid, then it's okay. Then she can be a badass. There's the Vasquez, named for Vasquez from the Aliens movie. Have you seen Aliens? No,
Nope.
okay. There's a famous scene with these space marines, and one of them is a woman. She's called Vasquez. She's doing pull-ups in the locker room.
Hey, Vasquez. Have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
Oh, Vasquez. He just too bad.
So if a woman is more of a guy than the guys, then she's allowed to kick ass. And in this series of videos, Dan, who's the guy behind the channel, shows how Furiosa and the other women don't conform to any of these archetypes. They subvert them and create some very, very strong female characters that don't cater to any of the usual stereotypes, any of the usual reasons why women are allowed to kick ass in an action movie. And I think that is just amazing. And I'm going to link to those videos.
I'm excited to watch those videos. That sounds like my genre of YouTube.
Absolutely. Do you remember, having only seen it once, poor you? What is Max's final act in the movie? What's the final thing he does? Do you remember?
Nope. I really did try and remember. Like, I also have a horrendous memory from my
Right.
ADHD, so I really cannot help you here.
So both Max and Furiosa kick all kinds of ass and kill a lot of people throughout the movie. But Max's final act is that Furiosa got stabbed and lost a lot of blood. His final act is actually to donate blood to Furiosa. That's a healing act against something that might be more feminine coded. Which, by the way, reminds me of a previous episode, which is, of course, Steven Universe. Yeah, with his healing saliva.
Yeah. Just lick people better.
Yeah, exactly. So again, all of these tropes, what is typically masculine and what is typically feminine, are subverted throughout the movie. And I think that is absolutely brilliant and gives the movie a real depth. Of course, that also pissed some people off, and the keyboard warriors were, up in arms. This is woke bullshit. This is feminist propaganda. And honestly, cry more. Cry more. I'm enjoying your tears. Yeah.
I love your absolute disdain for these people. You're just like, yeah, okay.
They have fucking nothing to offer society except their tears, and I accept them gladly and thankfully. That was the 5th and final reason why Mad Max Fury Road is amazing. Katie, what do you think now? Are you gonna go back and watch it with like on a big screen, good sound system,
Yeah.
and looking out for the feminist aspects?
I do remember the feminist aspects to a certain extent. The base storyline, if I remember correctly, was about rescuing the wives from the toxic masculinity big guy with the thingy on his face.
Yeah.
Joe?
Immortan Joe, yeah.
Him? So like even like the main storyline of the film is got like feminist undertones about like the version of masculinity and the patriarchy being negative to society, because even the boys who are part of that society are killing themselves, and the women in that society are subjugated, right? It's like a really over-the-top, extreme visual example of the horrors that toxic masculinity and the patriarchy put upon people in a really over-the-top way, and shows a different alternative lifestyle or a different alternative way of being, which is not that bullshit.
Exactly.
So I do remember there being like really feminist overtones to the film. I do need to watch it again because I feel like I do remember the editing being very good, and I do remember the feminism being very like delightfully tasty. But a lot of the other aspects of the film I hadn't appreciated because I watched it on a tiny screen with my shitty headphones. I think I need to go back to really enjoy the visuals of the film as well and get the full experience of the music and all of that jazz, or all that rock, to be more accurate to this film.
Yes, exactly. This is a rock movie, not a jazz movie. Absolutely.
So, Alex, where can people learn more about Mad Max Fury Road?
I mean, the best place to go is just go watch it, okay? Big screen, huge sound. Turn the volume up. This is a loud movie. You need to watch it loud.
Do you know what streaming service? Is it on Netflix? Is it on Disney Plus? Do you know if it's on a service?
It's not on Netflix Denmark. That much I know. So you'll have to find it somewhere else. I don't even know where you'd find it right now. There is a ton of content. There's been so much commentary on Mad Max Fury Road online because it is so good. And I'm going to link to a ton of that. So I'm going to link to a video specifically about the cars and how amazing they are and how they built them in real life. On the props and the costumes and how insanely detailed all of that is. There's a video on the wives and the whole process they went through. All of this is fascinating. You need to watch it. And of course, the series of videos by Innuendo Studios on the explicit feminism in Mad Max Fury Road is all super cool.
I will also put the video essay that I saw that made me watch Mad Max Fury Road in the first place was a Lindsay Ellis one. I'll pop that in the show notes as well.
So, dear listener, what do you think of Mad Max Fury Road? Have you seen it? Have you seen it more or less than 20 times? Do you love the batshit level of energy as much as we do? And do you appreciate the feminism? Or are you one of those not my Max kind of people? Tell us what you think. Leave a comment on our website, electricenthusiasm.com, or on our Instagram @electricenthusiasm.
Okay. Today's moment of meta is I want to give some advice for how I've managed to make money from my hobbies, and I still like my hobbies. So the things that I do that I make money from, I paint paintings and I sell them, and then I make tops and I sell them. The big reason why I like selling my projects is because I don't like having them. I like the process of making them. And so for me, getting rid of them is very satisfying. So the way in which I try to make sure that I really enjoy the hobby still is I don't worry about the selling of the product. I just like to make the item. So what I do is I make the thing, whatever I make, and then after I've made it, I see if anyone wants it. And if someone wants to take it off my hands and I can charge them money to do so, they can have it. But for me, it's all about the enjoyment of the creating of the thing. Another thing that I do as well, which a lot of people use as their hobby, Lindy Hop, swing dancing. I still fucking love swing dancing. I love it so much. I love dancing. I love teaching. I love performing. I love competing. And I think the main thing that helps me continue to love it, despite the fact that it is now my full-time job, is to really have a very strong division about what's for me and what's for others. So for me, social dancing, training for competitions and performances, that's for me. That's because I love it. I love doing those things, and they are very much selfish indulgences on my part. What's for other people is teaching, because teaching is inherently for other people. It's inherently about me giving my knowledge, myself, my everything to somebody else. And so because of that, that's the thing that I get paid for. I don't get paid to compete. I don't get paid to perform. I don't get paid to go social dancing. I get paid to give what I have to others, which I think is a very fair trade, in my opinion. And so as long as you have that delineation between what is for you and what is for the world, right? So when it comes to creating something, let's say your hobby is an art project or is sewing or knitting or crochet or whatever, the thing that's for you is the process of making the thing. That's yours. That's what brings you joy, what you are going to do because it makes you happy. And then the product at the end of the day, that's the thing you're going to give to somebody else. That's the thing that's for somebody else. And having that delineation of what's yours and what someone else's, for me, helps me keep that enjoyment. Because like, even if I'm painting something that I'm not going to keep, that I know I'm going to paint this for, someone's asked me to paint this, I still love painting it. I still love that process of like putting the brush on the paper. And I still love the process of sewing and creating a shirt, even if I know I'm not going to wear it, because the process is the really enjoyment part. And I think this comes back to our conversation last time about hobbies being something that you don't have to be good at. If you enjoy the process, if you enjoy the journey, it doesn't matter if the end result's very good or not, because you're enjoying the process. And so I think if from the beginning of your hobby, when you're not very good at it, you build this enjoyment of the thing and the doing of the thing, then the end result has less value. because the enjoyment happens through the process, if that makes sense. So my 2 top tips if you would like to earn money from your hobby. Step 1, figure out a way to delineate what is for you and what is for others. If you can separate those 2 things, that means the stuff that's for you is just for you. And second top tip is to enjoy the process, to enjoy the making of, to enjoy the creative moment, because that's the bit that is the thing that you got into it for.
Yeah. And I think that as soon as you monetize something, especially if you're depending on it for your livelihood, there is a very real risk that you forget your own enjoyment, that your whole focus is on maximizing the profits. That's just not going to be sustainable. There's no way you can keep doing this and keep doing it well in the long run if you're not having fun while you do it.
I mean, I think I'm really lucky. Like, the pandemic has made me appreciate getting to dance with people again. Having that like little reminder of just like, hey, remember when you were alone in your room like a little loser? Isn't it so much more fun now with people?
Exactly. Oh, I think that's a great tip. How to maintain your enthusiasm about something you make money from. We could even talk about work, actual work.
I mean, that's very much your area of expertise, not mine. I feel like you've literally written a book on it.
More like 5, actually. But yeah, we could. That could potentially be our next moment of meta. But yeah, I love the distinction of here's what's for me and here's what's for others. Yeah. Oh, Katie, this kind of no-brainer, right? But if somebody liked this episode, what other episodes should they listen to of ours?
They need to check out our maximalist trilogy,
yes.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, and RRR.
Yeah.
We are here for maximalist filmmaking. Yeah. Apparently, this podcast stands over the top action films.
Who knew?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Awesome.
We also did do a quick shout out to Steven Universe in this episode.
True.
Where male protagonists having healing powers or healing abilities are super valued. So you can also check out Steven Universe.
Absolutely. Cool. So, dear listener, we hope you enjoyed sharing some of our enthusiasms in this episode. Please visit our website, electricenthusiasm.com, or find us on Instagram @electricenthusiasm to discover more episodes or to leave a comment.
And now, dear listener, go jump onto a duck wagon and have the most epic guitar solo of all time with flames.